Okay, let's keep this one quick because you'll note it's dark. This is the vlog for June 17th, 2018. We're keeping this quick because it's hot. It's very warm in this house that lacks air conditioning on a day where it got up into the 80s. It's probably a lot nicer outside than it is in here. Um, at this point, the house retains heat well after the rest of the world cools in the evening. Today has been sort of rough. It started off really well. I got up and I went for a walk down at Marymore. Um, and it was beautiful. Finally, for the first time in what seems like a month, I wasn't racing clouds to get back home and trying to avoid rain or just dealing with gray skies and wind. Um, it was just beautiful from start to finish. And it started off at about 60, and by the time I got back to my car, it was about 70, to give you an idea of how quickly it started to warm up today. Um, it was not without issue, because I had forgotten that today is Father's Day. I don't think my dad actually watches these, but on the off chance, happy Father's Day, Dad. I happen to know that he got to go see a Eagles cover band today. So he probably enjoyed that a great deal. Oh, I need to get a card because I won't be able to see him till tomorrow. So I should go grab one of those before I go to bed tonight so that I can leave it or give it to him tomorrow. Maybe I'll just get it tomorrow morning. I don't know. But here's the issues. Issue the first. Father's Day is the same day, or the same weekend, I should say, as the Brewers Festival at Marymore, also called Brewfest, not to be confused with the World of Warcraft holiday, which takes place in September. The Brewers Festival is really cool. You get tokens that you use to buy a little sipping glass of beer to sample a whole bunch of different beers from a whole bunch of different breweries in the area. It's very neat. It's a great way to spend a nice Sunday, especially if your dad's with you. And you like beer. That's sort of an important part. It probably won't be a lot of fun if you don't like beer. Although I didn't like beer particularly much the first time I went, but I went with a friend who showed me a whole bunch of really cool beers with really cool flavors, and I actually ended up having quite a good time. But the problem is the Audubon Bird Trail that I like to take around through the dog park and then back up past the house on the west side of the park. That's all where Brewfest takes place, and so it was fenced off. So I ended up having to sort of carefully wind my way around to avoid getting into the bird. Obviously, I went at 7:30 in the morning, so they weren't set up and ready to go yet. But I still wasn't, supposed to be in that area. So I sort of skimmed around, and it was quite sunny, and I spent an awful lot of my time in the direct sun, which has given me a headache today. I've tried to drink enough water to stay on top of that, but it wasn't enough, I guess. It feels better now. But I'm sort of stuffed up, excuse me. And I don't know if these headaches are actually some sort of allergic reaction. Maybe not necessarily to sunlight, but something that I'm being exposed to when I go down to Marymore. It does seem to happen most often when I've been to Marymore during, the sunny part of a day. I really don't want to stop doing it, but maybe I just need to wear sunscreen. I don't know. I could also go very early before the sun's really sort of come up, leaving right at 6 o'clock. How you can usually, make it back to my car by 8. Whereas when I leave at 7:30, I don't get back till 9:30 or later, depending on how busy the foot traffic has gotten. But yeah, so that all happened, and then I came home and played a lot more Warframe. It's funny. I've started to think about Gunpla. Uh, the reason Friday's release of New Gundam Breaker is such a big event is mostly because I know a guy at work who also likes Gundam models, and when I was sort of, this is going to be a slightly long story, so let me try and keep it as brief as possible. I got Gundam Breaker 3 for my PS4. I had to import it from Singapore to get an English subtitled version, but I was able to play it on my PS4 because it's not technically region locked. I decided I wanted the DLC, but I didn't want to have to go through the hassle of creating a Singapore account and then using a credit card and sort of faking the address. It was a lot of hassle, and when I realized that the version of the game that had all the DLC was available from the site that sold me the original at roughly the same price, maybe $10 more. Each individual DLC pack cost $5, and there were 6. So I basically saved myself $20 by spending the whole price of the game again. So it wasn't really savings. It just made my life easier. And actually, I think each DLC is like $10 a piece, not $5. So I think I was looking at $60 for DLC, or the game for $60. I got it originally for $50. So I just bought the DLC version. I had a game disc that I didn't need anymore, so I gave it to my friend from work. He got really into it, and then he had the same thing that I had, where he really wanted the DLC because it added a ton of mobile suits, and didn't want to go through the hassle, so he imported it from the same site I did, and then he passed it on to somebody else. It would be hilarious to me if that game ended up getting passed along and passed along and passed along until a dozen different people played that disc. But my friend has been looking forward to this game almost more than me. In fact, probably more than me at this point. And he's been sending me text updates saying, like 7 days left last Friday. So I am acutely aware of the upcoming release date, and I'm really looking forward to it. I know that when that happens, I'm going to be playing Warframe a lot less. That's just the way it is. Unless something weird happens and I'm just not super enthused with the game, at which point I'll probably put it away and spend the last few weeks of my break playing something else. Maybe booting back up Breath of the Wild now that I've got the speakers, or getting back into Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World is getting an amazing update. I've never heard of this before. They've done cross promotions with other games and franchises by importing weapons and armor so you can create characters that look like the originals, but they've never brought in a monster from another game until now. They are bringing the Behemoth, one of the most famous creatures from the Final Fantasy series, as a monster that you can hunt in Monster Hunter World for a special event. The Behemoth looks perfect. Of all the things they could have imported, this was probably the smartest choice they could have made. I can't think of any other creature that fits in with the art style of Monster Hunter World as well. The Behemoth has a lot of character, it has a lot of personality in its appearance, and it's not using a ton of magical effects, with the exception of the spell Meteor, which is its most famous signature move and has killed many, many parties over the years. I don't know how they're going to implement that, but they could do some sort of special attack where it causes parts of the ceiling to fall in on the players and they have to dodge it. But this is really funny. It's a cross promotion specifically with Final Fantasy XIV and Monster Hunter World. So they're each getting something. Monster Hunter World is getting the Behemoth, but I also play Final Fantasy XIV, not as much. Final Fantasy XIV is getting the Rathalos, and that too, oddly, looks right at home. The dragon designs in Final Fantasy XIV are sort of all over the place, so there's really sort of a niche where the Rathalos can fit. And man, if you can actually get Rathalos armor, if that's one of the things that you can, earn from this event, that's going to be fantastic. I would love to have a set of Rathalos armor for my Final Fantasy XIV character. I wonder, I have no idea what the Behemoth armor is going to look like. I assume it's going to be Behemoth themed, but I don't know if there's already a Final Fantasy XIV Behemoth armor set, or if they would do something like bring in the classic Warrior of Light armor, or some other, very standard Final Fantasy XIV style of armor. It would be very, very funny if you made just the normal Hyur clothing from Final Fantasy XIV for your Monster Hunter World character. I wouldn't mind that, actually. It would be a little odd, and it doesn't have a helmet technically, but it could still look cool. Anyway, we'll see. The cross-promotion is happening this summer, I suspect July or August. Hopefully it doesn't interfere with the World of Warcraft release of the next expansion in August. I have a lot on my plate right now. So, 10 minutes again. Didn't think I'd go that long today, but a lot of things to think about. Anyway, I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.